Mainly saying that this is a new release that is really different and is based off of a lot of feedback that we've gotten over the years. And we've seen the product, the 109 release, be really well sort of taken up and used internally and externally, a lot of data flowing through it. We've tried to address the feedback of areas where there's some confusion, mainly in terms of kind of navigation and scalability and things like that. So we tackled a lot of that, as well as adding a new user interface and a new sort of structure of the data. And so you'll see that with primarily 4 concepts. The first being this project-based workflows, which means that I think in Colin's talk and Sarah's talk, we saw references of the browser and the web disk. And I'll give a little demo in terms of how we've interpreted that and sort of unified them into a top-level project. We focused a lot on data mining, and in particular by coming up with these query builders and report generation on the iPACS. So still trying to keep the same flexible and we think powerful report generation, but coming up with an easier and more streamlined way of generating reports. And finally, we've added a pipeline processing framework, which sort of takes also from Sarah's talk, in that you have these a customer will come to us with some need. You know, there's a bioinformatics task that needs to be accomplished. How do we integrate it in there? And so we've come up with a plug-in-based way of doing this here. And I'll do slides and demos along the way a little bit. So I don't expect everyone to read this page, but this is kind of where it all starts in terms of the project-centric workflow, where we traditionally had a browser or a web disk. Now everybody logs in and they see their own projects. My project's linked, you get to it, and there's kind of, within a given project, you have a landing page where you may have a toolbar of common actions that are done there. You know, for us, we do a lot of syncing between iPACS servers. You can now kind of star a project so that it's one of your top 6 that's always available in a menu to you. You can add data points, and I'll talk a little bit about the importance of project-level data points, in particular in the context of data mining later on. And then also with reporting, which I alluded to earlier, you can generate project-level reports and run these background jobs. The page itself is based off of, similar to our dashboard in 109, it's based off of user-defined widgets that, you know, in our thinking in the future from feedback from user groups like this, you know, users want to see a to-do list of the things that they need to do on a given project. They want to see statistics of what's been loaded, what's been processed so far, what's left to do. You want to see notes from collaborators or team members. You want to see a history of jobs that may be run on that project, and kind of various things. So we've added some of these things as a first pass, but we're looking, I think, first internally, but a lot externally in terms of how to develop this page to really be a landing spot for a project. And then moving on from that, the top menu that I was talking about earlier is this no longer a browser web disk page. You just see my projects and sort of a quick navigation there. We still have the traditional project tree, which is this project list. We've removed that, kind of heard a lot of complaints over the years of having to click down the fly menu of browser, project, subproject, subproject, subproject. It became a contest internally of how far someone could go without losing focus on it. So we've gotten rid of it. Now it's an autocomplete, this little go-to project link right there. And then you also see favorites based on that star that I showed you earlier, as well as the recent projects. As I mentioned, we still have the project tree. It's been rewritten so that it loads much faster and preloads so that you can easily filter without having to kind of wait to search over the data. You kind of get everything, and then you can do a live filter on the client side of all the fields. In addition, there's this advanced search, which lets you do query over data points or projects parameters that that have sort of been, people thought it was in the system for a long time, but now we've added it, and I think it's come out pretty well. We got around it in the past by coming up with custom reports that would do this, but this is really a way of streamlining the data mining on a project level, and I'll do a few examples later on of this. Back up to the menu, we have the global search, which was introduced in 1.09. We've made it a little bit more user-friendly, and we like to think that this search, you can really hit anywhere on the system. We've extended the data formats which are supported, and by supported I mean full text, metadata extraction from pretty much any file format that you can think of. This is searchable from up here. Obviously, the projects will search the projects. So in this little clip here, I'm searching over all the projects with the name demo in them. But you can search files, directories, study series, patients, images, users, notifications, and things like that.
Is that searching headers?
Yeah. So anything that's extracted. So the library that we use there it's pretty well supported in terms of, there's all background and a lot of text-based things. So I don't know how much raw, like if TIFF headers are in there or not, but I haven't really looked at it. But we also have of those kind of magnifying glass, mail message, and bell. We're now on to the mail message with the little 4 on top. We still have our internal mail messaging system. We made it a lot more lightweight because we realized before we were duplicating a lot of external mail servers, and everyone's got email, so there's no point in storing it all there. I think, Krishan, how many files did we try to back up that were just email files alone? Gigabytes and gigabytes of redundant email. So we've rewritten the internal messaging and sort of done a little bit of a better job integrating with external mail systems. But the main takeaway point is if you get a new message in the system, that little 4 goes up to a 5, and that green means that you have a message to read. You can read it by highlighting, hovering over the little envelope, and you can read them right from here or dismiss them. The little bell is a status notification, so if you, one of the main changes on this system from the back end is decoupling the front end kind of browser side things with back-end jobs. So if you go to unzip a large file, traditionally we would just do this on the iPACS, and if it was too big, you may get a page timeout. Right now, if it goes past a certain period of time, it'll just give you a little notification saying, I'm going to do this in the background, and then it'll come back later on, and you'll see a notification up there that appears. Along with that, you just see an overview of the job queue, which has been part of the iPACS since day one. The next point that I'll talk about in terms of new functionality is really the concept of a flexible but comprehensive query builder. And you'll see something like this. This is, they're on a lot of websites. For this, you'll see the same type of query builder on the project page, browser page, and web disk page. Obviously, with the parameters that go into the search change based on context, but it allows you to really drill down into your data, coming up with complex and/or joins and multiple parameter selection, and it also allows us to search over data points, which is extremely helpful on from a data mining standpoint on the project level, but also in a sense of trying to, if you're looking at all the images on an iPACS and you know that one of them was has a specific metadata value, you can get this back now much easier than you could do it before. In the past, with 109, you would have had to write a report to do this or re-index data a certain way, and so we think that it will be kind of a game changer in terms of data mining. In addition, you can save queries across the system as a user or on the system level so that other people can see your saved queries. So we saw a few screenshots earlier about the browser view. We have the same browser view, but it looks a lot different now. I will do a demo after this just to show it, because it actually, there's a lot going on this page, and it is more just to introduce that we have had changes. But here you'd see that the query builder is part of the browser view, can be hidden away, or you can really enter a lot of information that would let you filter on the results below. In addition, you can now view, traditionally we combine the patient study level, and then you have this tree that lets you drill down to the image level from there. We've added support for viewing data on all three levels, not the patient level yet, but just because the nature of our work doesn't really require it, but if it comes up or anybody asks for it, we could put it in. The different levels let you sort of quickly get a glance and browse through whatever, for a series you care more about modality, so you put it on the series level and you can sort by PET scans or something like that, or filter based on study description there. But we found it was an easier way of browsing. The final component for the browser is this context-based right-click menu, which was there in the earlier version as well, but has been rewritten for the new UI. And in particular, that little process line, the fourth up from the bottom, is the way that you would kick off external jobs. So, for example, Sarah's processing pipeline job, which creates this report, would be run from here. So you'd select the data set, right-click, go to do that. If you have custom DICOM scripts or something like that, you can have a wrapper around one of those, right-click, and that plugin would be generated from there. These are configurable and plugin based, so not every iPACS server will have the same processing modules. Here we're looking at iPACS Sync, Convert to Nifty, and a QA/QC thing that we use internally. That leads us to the processing engine, which is what happens when you click on one of those menu items. You're presented with a page that is completely specific to the processing algorithm. And in this case, this is our QA/QC processing job. But this is really where we see growth in the future in terms of expanding the plugin-based component of the system. One of the things that, and the challenges we've had to date is that someone like Sarah will come with a unique set of requirements that just fit her workflow or something like that. So, or fit, a smaller number of workflows. You wouldn't want to make that part of the entire product, but you want to leave it and be able to kind of kick it off from here. So this is the way that we see doing this in the future. And in particular, integrating with other systems APIs or exporting or things like that. Anything that's custom to a specific system we'd add here. The web disk has been rewritten too, primarily on the preview front. So, when you click a file now, we sort of, it's very Dropbox-ish, but we open up a page which shows you the image preview and then content search, information that may be associated with that data. There's version control options that appear here, and so on and so forth. You can still generate the reports from these pages, and you can still create public links the way we did 1.09. Again, going back to the report engine traditionally was just from the web disk reports page. Now it's context-based, so that if you run a report on the projects page, you see a list of all your project reports, and they could be system-level project reports or user-level project reports, but they're kicked off from, it's context-based, so right on the project page. If you do it from the browser page, you're going to see, you select the data sets that get sent into those reports, and then you generate these forms that you see right here. It's basically the same flexibility, but an easier way of kicking off reports than we previously had. Uploads for both the browser and the web disk have been rewritten so that now you just drag a file onto the screen and it starts uploading. We've dropped earlier versions of Internet Explorer for this, so this may cause some headaches for some groups, but I should say that we'll keep 1.09 as kind of the long-term support one, but any HTML5 or newer browser will be able to use 2.0. Dragging and dropping chunked uploads, so we should really see better performance in terms of getting data into the system via drag and drop. This has always been a headache, and we've come up with the iPACS sync tool as a way of getting around that. But, in addition, we've got if anybody used our form builder on the old iPACS, it's very powerful, but it's not the easiest thing to use. So we've rewritten it and let you kind of create custom data point forms that you made and associate with data again. We got a quick word on the next 6 or so months. Christian's going to talk about some Amazon storage in a talk later on, but I think the industry is really moving towards object-level storage, and in particular, those that support the S3 API. So we're really making an effort to integrate with these, just for price alone, for our internal data, and security and, scalability. It makes a lot more sense to shift to these object-level data stores rather than NFS mounts, which is what most people do now. We'll add project snapshots, which from a regulatory standpoint is a feature that lets you, sort of like the Mac time machine, it lets you look back in time to see the project in read-only state at earlier times. Support for grid engine cluster environments, for sort of kicking off jobs that may be computationally intensive. Another regulatory note would be support for the FDA send requirements. And then along with that, extending the API to be fully RESTful, integration with additional platforms, and really just getting more feedback into the type of pipelines the plugins that we'll add.